For more on the Blue Jackets season, let's bring in Anthony Rothman from our friends at 97.1 The Fan. So, Anthony, the big news, obviously, is John Tortorella out as head coach. Just wanted to get, and we're going to dive in in a minute here, but just want to get your initial thoughts when you heard the news.
Well, thanks a lot, Dave. My initial news was sadness. We had a legend in this city for a short but incredible time. He took this team and this franchise to places they've never experienced, figuratively and literally. And everyone kind of knew that when you walked into Nationwide Arena, knowing that Torts was behind that bench, there was a certain edge, there was a certain electricity. Obviously, wins have to come along for the ride, but I'm on record. I think it was a mistake. It doesn't mean that a new voice can't extract something from this next era, but I didn't think he needed to prove it again. I thought he had already done that. And I think what people forget is 2020, they led the league in man games lost. They were decimated with injuries. And I'm not talking about just regular dudes. I'm talking about guys months at a time. I'm surprised you and I didn't break an ankle walking into that arena, because it seemed like everybody on the team had done that. I thought he squeezed every last ounce of juice he could out of 2020 going into the bubble. And the fact that they played Toronto, beat them in 5, lose to the Cup winners in 5 in Tampa. Every game in that series was a 1-goal game outside of the one that we won, game 2, I believe. So whatever they came out of the bubble with going into this season, I think they were already kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. No camp, condensed season. I didn't think he had to prove it again, and I think it's kind of sad. I hope that they can take what he gave them, that edge I talked about, and transfer it over. And this core of players, hopefully they can carry that.
Okay, let's get on the pro Torts bandwagon for now. And I'm going to play devil's advocate in a second. But for now, okay, how many playoffs he took them to? They've won 2 series in franchise history. Both were John Tortorella's series. So do you think, Anthony, there's a danger in thinking you're above a coach who's won a Stanley Cup, who's taken you places no one else has? I understand you want to go farther than he took you, but is there a danger here in thinking you're better than John Tortorella?
No, I don't really think so. I just feel like there was something about the identity of his teams that I really enjoyed. That's not to say we can't be objective and to say that he needs players to play a complete game, Dave. And let's take Max Domi as an example. Here's a young kid who came in, was asked to play away from the puck a little bit, not like to be Superman, two-way guy, but to kind of learn how to evolve and play the game away from the puck. I don't think John Tortorella is this, anti-skill guy. And if you can't play tough and dig the puck out of the corners and do everything I need you to do, you're going to be sitting next to me. I just think he demands passion. I think he demands effort. And I think if you're a skill guy, you can't escape that part of it. But I feel like John Tortorella just gave this team something that we all can admire, and that's playing every shift like it's your last and coaching every game like it's game 7. But I agree with you, it has to fit. And I think he even admitted that now that they're in a rebuild, and he's done that already, he rebuilt this thing once, then maybe it is time to let these young guys, and they are a young team, develop a little bit, make the mistakes they're going to make without it having to be like this spotlight of pressure. They are in a rebuild. Let's not make any mistake there. And he's probably not going to be able to coach a rebuild the same way again, because I just think he is that demanding. So maybe he's right. Maybe this was time to have a neutral party.
Okay, so you think it was a mistake to let Tortorella go. You're on the record. Let me give you the counter to this argument. When you look at the friction there, Pierre-Luc Dubois gone, Patrick Laine issues as soon as he got here. Do you think some of that friction, it's a good thing to bring in someone else?
Well, and that's kind of the point on whether a new voice at this time, and then you have guys like Cam and Seth and Bjorkstrand, who are also on the record saying that Torts made me a better player. He was demanding. He held the team accountable. It's going to be up to those guys who went through the Tortorella era and benefited from it and feel they're better for it to be able to transfer that into the room. And I agree with you that maybe a new voice at this time is okay. The Pierre-Luc Dubois thing, I don't think that was a real Torts problem. PLD's on the record saying Torts wasn't the reason he left. Maybe it was homesick. Maybe he didn't want to sign here long-term because he saw himself back in Canada where he is and where he's from. I don't think you can put every guy in a box. Panarin took less money to leave because he wanted big, bright lights, big city. They were never going to pay Matt Duchene the money he got. What he get, $8 million. They were going to pay they may have paid Bobrovsky $10 million a year, but now you can see that probably would have been a mistake. Panarin's the only guy you would have backed up the truck for, and they were willing to do that. So the Patrick Laine situation, here's a guy who comes in, gets thrown in. He's got a howitzer of a shot, which we don't have the guys that can tee him up, and they're trying to find chemistry on the fly. And I think he was trying to find his way. He's a much better player than, what do you have? 12 goals in 45 games? I don't even remember, but he's a much better player than that, and he'll admit that. So I don't think we can just say, well, since this guy didn't live up to his expectations, it's because he couldn't play for Torts. If you can't play for Torts, then I got to question your passion and will to win. It doesn't mean that every guy is not going to butt heads with him, but I'll tell you this, Max Domi and guys like that, they want to step up and get face-to-face with Torts. Torts will admit this. He wants a guy that will actually step up and fight with him and argue. That's what he wants, because that means you have the fire within you. So it's a great case study. Torts is an acquired taste, but I think there's no argument that he made this franchise a lot better than before he came here. That's a fact. We know that. Whether they can get back and keep that edge is yet to be seen.
You mentioned a lot of names, PLD, Panarin, Bobrovsky, Duchene. We know a lot of talent has left Nationwide Arena. Seth Jones is the next guy to make a decision. They have him under contract for one more year. He could sign this summer, but man, he was very non-committal after the final game, which makes sense, but he kind of said, look, I've got to decide. I'm only going to get this one big contract once. I'm undecided. Your thoughts on Seth Jones' future in Columbus?
All right, so here's the deal. Seth Jones is the guy, and he knows it. Quiet leader, future captain. So we know what he can be. And he's one of those core guys I mentioned that can set an example for the younger guys. Multiple All-Star, Norris Trophy, probably potential. If he signs, it's not only so key for this franchise long-term, I think, Dave, it would then send the reverberations out into the NHL to wait a minute. We are a destination. If a guy like that chooses Columbus, that can be very big. I'm a little more than 50-50. I'm confident that he will sign long-term. I'm confident they'll commit to him financially. It just really depends on whether he believes he can win here still, because they are now in a rebuild. And he may be willing to kind of take this thing into the season. I don't think the Jackets want him to go into the season. I think they're more than willing to pay him. He's the kind of guy, it seems like his personality, Dave, fits Columbus. He's not a me guy. He's not a real flamboyant guy. He leads by action. He's the guy they got to get, and they've got to find a way to make him understand that he can be their guy, the face of the franchise, and hopefully that'll be important to him. But I think he fits this city in a lot of ways.